So welcome to roundtable number 5, which is picking your lane today. And this is a really interesting topic for me personally. I'll give you a little bit of a background. So I know, Iris, you don't know me personally. And so I'll show you a little bit of background about why this topic is so vital. I think even more vital in going forward. Oh, we've got Maggie coming in. Even more vital going through into 2022, being able to actually pick a lane and stay incredibly focused until you actually see results, and when to look for results and when not to. Hello, Maggie, good to see you. So this is how this session is going to run. I'll give you a little bit of a background on the topic. I'll give you a little bit of a background on myself. I'll also ask you a question in a moment about anything around your lane and around things. We're going to do a little bit of work. I have got a good little resource that I've created behind the scenes, which you'll get access to as a PDF version of this, but we'll walk through it today. I want to get you thinking. My goal for Visible Roundtables is to add a lot of value up front first, to be quite transparent and open about the journey that I see people going on, or even my own journey, the mistakes that I've made, the mistakes that I see going on. I really want to bring clarity, because many times I speak to people and they have invested in things and strategy that takes them part of the way, not all of the way. It gives you a piece of the puzzle. It doesn't necessarily help you walk your own path. And you're going to see that today, how I'm really my whole aim is that people find their particular path and lane and walk on it. Because I don't think, there's a quote I'll show you later in a little bit, which is Carl Jung, which is, if you find the path in front of you is clear, then you are on someone else's. Okay, I'll say that again. Oriel as well. Got a few more coming in. If you find that the path you are on is clear in front of you, then you are on someone else's path. Because part of your growth, part of every part of the growth. Hello, Oriel. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you.
to meet you. If you can see clearly what's in front of you, it doesn't mean that we're going to pick a lane today. I'm going to show you how to pick a lane for yourself. And maybe you might get confirmation that the lane that you really have been thinking is right for you is right for you. And if there's anything that needs to be off that path, that's a distraction, that's an obstacle to you, you're going to get clear on that today. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. This is for everybody. So the reason why that's so important is my background, and I'll just mute everybody just for background noise. The reason why I started running these is I wanted to run something weekly. We've done boot camps, challenges, all sorts of all sorts of different things to give value, to show people how to map out their message, get them clear on the value that they bring through their service-based business to the world. Obviously, behind the scenes, we do have things that we do. My business partner and I, Anchor, we run the Visible Club. And so I'm always transparent that we want to serve people. We've got a goal in 2022. We want to serve 50 people. That doesn't sound like a big goal, Angela. It is a big goal, because those 50 people are going to be very meaningful to us. This is not a numbers vanity game. This is about 50 sustainable businesses getting out into the world. And so one of the reasons that I started running the roundtables, which is we're on week number 5, but I was making everybody laugh to start with, because I said I started with a chest infection on week 2, and just gradually it's going as we go through. I'm coughing less through each one at the moment. But one of the reasons for doing it weekly was to give value, because I already know, as a former performer for 30 years on the stage, being a voice coach for 10 years, working with over 1,000 different voices, the ability to understand your value, find your own voice, absolutely fine, find your own voice, and to also find your own level of kind of pathway and direction yourself is highly important. When I was working as a voice coach for 10 years, probably over 1,000 different speakers and singers on their own, the one job that I had at the beginning of the journey that I took everybody on was I needed to help them. I needed to be the mirror. I needed to shine the light for those people to see who they really were and what they were actually capable of. Because up to that point, they probably didn't understand themselves, their gifting, their voice. There was some skill to be gained, and I had to challenge that voice. I had to put things in place for them to work and to go and practice, and they would consistently. And you needed that consistency, because if you didn't have that consistency and that ability to work out in the moment where the obstacles were and where the challenges were, you couldn't just throw some mud at the walls for 12 weeks and expect to have a top class voice that was ready to go and do anything under any pressure. It's just not possible. It's not possible for performers. I've been in this game for too long, okay? In order for me to go out as a performer previously, like in order to be able to just switch on that light whenever I needed to, there was an awful lot of preparation behind the scenes. So in my own background, my grandfather and my uncle were world-class entertainers, so you can go and look them up on YouTube. You may if you're from another country, you probably wouldn't know them. If you're under a certain age, you probably wouldn't know them. It's absolutely fine. But if you go and look up George Formby or George Formby Senior on YouTube, you will see that they were world-class entertainers, and one was my grandfather and one was my uncle, and they were film stars, and they were incredible comedians. And I stood for most of my childhood on the side of stages in the UK, watching my dad take that act around the country, watching top class entertainers and comedians and performers. And there was something that I understood about audience connecting and the role of how important getting your act together really, really was, because it enabled you to be able to be well known, it enabled you to be excellent at what you did, and it enabled you to go round under any pressure and still perform and improvise and adapt what you were doing to an audience without sort of disappearing into the background or falling apart. There is some inherent things that being a performer really gives you. And I felt that I started to come over and work with speakers about 2017, 18, 19. And most of the time, the things that I was really drawing on in my own background to help people was, sure, the fact that I'd done certain things around sales ability, etc. But it was that ability to communicate with other people and to be able to read your audience and to be able to have your act together and know what your value is and know what you're selling in the marketplace. That has to be a bedrock of everybody, every service-based business owner. And I think it's going to get even more busy to get that across via all of the internet options, shall we say, coming up in 22 and beyond. There will be enough to distract you. I can tell you, you will have every shiny object being thrown at you from January the 1st. Your inbox will be so full, you won't even know what to do with it. It'll be, it's going to be goal setting. It's going to be God knows whatever else. It's going to be crush it in 2022. It's going to be every bit that you can imagine that you've signed up for is probably going to hit your inbox at the beginning of 2022. They're already planning it. For me, I wanted to take a different path. I wanted to take a more consistent path where I was showing up every single week and providing value and showing people that actually your business, your service-based business, is not about it. There's sometimes you'll have a sprint, there's sometimes you'll have a rest, but we have got to be able to be the people that other people pay attention to. And I know how to do that. I've been teaching people how to do it for a long time on an individual basis. But I think it was one of the reasons why I was able to get my own ventures off the ground so incredibly quickly and even translate them online with my current market when it needed to at the beginning of the pandemic. Growing your audience in 2022 is going to be vital. It is for us personally. But so one of the reasons for doing that is for you to see that what we're about and to see if you like us. If you don't, we want to be Marmite. We don't want to be we don't make promises we can't keep. But the vital thing beyond it is that we have a passion to help people find their own lane, get really, really focused on it, and start to hit pay dirt. And somebody gave me an analogy yesterday, which I thought was brilliant. They said when the gold miners go out and they are digging, they don't even know. They decide on a lane and they decide on this vein that they're going to kind of dig down into. And they have to dig down about 12 feet of just earth before they even get to what they call the pay dirt. And the pay dirt is that bit that's got the gold in it. And they have to dig down and dig down and dig down and dig down and keep going. And they don't even know if the vein that they're digging is actually going to hit pay dirt. And isn't that what we're doing? If we have to find our lane, and unless that lane is so congruent to you that it keeps you going when all else could distract you until you hit your pay dirt, as it were. And that's what I'm wanting to do with is open that conversation in the visible roundtables, provide some strategy and some next steps where it's necessary for people, keep them focused. And I mean, one of my biggest promises to people in 2022 is not what we'll do for you, but what we'll take off your plate so that you can do better. So as you do less, better. That's what we're going, is helping people to do less, better. So what I would love to know from you is, maybe put it in the chat. It would be good to see it in the chat. I love to kind of like see from your language in the chat. And then maybe also, if you want to, we'll do a little bit of Q&A towards the end as well, where you can come on and sort of ask some questions and get personal sort of help as well. Happy to do that. What distracts you from your lane? Do you even know what your lane is? Are you struggling to find a lane to focus on? Did you start down a lane and then it kind of just felt like you take the detour? What's your biggest, what's kind of happened to knock you off your lane, as it were? So maybe put something in the chat around what you feel about your personal lane. Like, do you know where you're going, but you don't know how to get there, etc.? Or is it that you don't even know what lane you're on now? Or you feel that you've gone to a place where you need to change lanes, but you don't know what to do? I'd love to know. If you've got it, put it in the chat for me. I know my lane. There is no one in my lane. Okay, that's interesting. So knowing your lane and having no one in your lane, that can be a good thing and not a good thing. Like if we sometimes think that, we're going to kind of talk about how to match this up to the marketplace. Some people are absolutely in their own lane. I'm not going to say whether you are or not, because I don't know. But some people are completely on their own lane and they've got no customers. They're just having a good walk in the park. Other people not 100% sure about the lane because I'm just starting. That's a really good point, Iris, really good point, because when we start anything off, we, again, like I gave that Carl Jung quote at the beginning, if the path in front of you is clear, you're probably on someone else's, is that we are not going to know. And I'll show you why business is an iteration of actions and understanding more than it is a step-by-step follow my leader process. So like it's like sort of knowing you're on the right path, but like in a fog, which slows you down. And as every woman got to do multitasking sometimes to keep afloat, and as in the fog sometimes it's getting clearer, so we need to adjust. Yeah, a really good way. It's like one of the biggest, I would say, it's like I know when I need to make an adjustment. Is there's the word flexibility. Flexibility is really important because there are things that are going to come as a distraction or a detour. Like you have a plan, you start on this plan, and then suddenly there are things that you are not, like, let's face it, things happen in life, don't they? And in work, and we do try something and it doesn't work, or somebody gets ill, etc. I won't go into our big story at the moment, but we've had several. I've had to learn to make so many adjustments through the year, and look at flexible. And when I look back at why, it's like those things that where I had to really back off or be flexible about or change, at the time I was like, I don't like it. But when I look at it now, I go, oh, not everything that looks like a bad thing is a bad thing. No, not everything that you think is brilliant is the right thing. So I need to narrow down my lane. It's too wide. Yeah, that's interesting. We've got somebody who says there's nobody on her lane. We've got somebody who goes, everybody's on my lane probably, and I need to actually narrow down. I've got lots of obstacles and multitasking and lots of things along my path, and I might trip over some of them. And somebody else going, I'm not even sure if I'm even on the right lane because I'm just starting. I'm at the crossroads. Brilliant. So shall we dive in? I will share my screen and I will walk you through a little bit of stuff for us to get a little clearer maybe on that. Okay, so let me so I've put you all on this side, so hopefully you can still see, or I might just move it across a little bit. Can I move that down a little bit? Hang on a second, I'm just going to move the screen slightly across. So, whoops, Daisy, where's my screen? There it is. Just moving my screen across here so you can actually see everything that you need to. Can everybody see that? Okay. Cool. Is that yes?
I can see the first line.
Oh, you can't see anything. Hang on a minute. Let me just stop. I'm going to stop share and go back in again because I think it's the share thing when I've just changed screens on it. Can you see that now? What can you see? You can see that. Okay. You can see writing on the page. Text. You can see text. Marvelous. Let me go through it. Okay. So we're going to look at picking your lane and focusing on that. So picking a lane and staying focused until things work for you is one of the top 3 areas that self-employed people say they struggle with. Who struggles with distraction? Procrastination, not knowing what to do on it, like every single one of us. We're not alone. You're not alone in this. These areas are hard. You're going to get a copy of this, by the way, and require us to dig deep and really reflect on what we must often stop doing in order to do less better. So believe me when I tell you that most people struggle with motivation because they haven't laid the foundations. We're going to have a look at some of those foundations today. There's far too much for any one person to do all at once. Now, that's my big one. I'm like Mrs. Capable. So the problem is like, you can be too capable, everybody. So it's far too much for us to do at once, especially in a day, a week, or even a month. You can stop feeling like you need to do more right now. But we do need to invest time and some money creating simple systems and processes so that you can begin to raise your profile and your confidence without actually feeling like you have to micromanage yourself or hold your feet to the fire all the time. If your business, the thing that you're going to build, isn't fun and exciting, if it's not got this purpose behind it for you, or if you can't see the wood for the trees, then you simply just will not show up for yourself, and your overwhelm will chip away at your confidence, which in turn will reduce further your motivation, and so the spiral continues. And this is where things can get desperate and people start buying into certainty and success that everybody else is promising them, and it keeps the illusion alive. So if anybody has been, course buying, like, I don't think we can make a wrong move in terms of we make the move that seems most logical to us at the time. And it can sometimes take us part of the way, not all of the way. Sometimes we get in there and we go, hang on a minute, I've completely bought the wrong thing. And sometimes we look and go, do you know what? I've bought it, but there's a whole piece missing in the middle that I couldn't have seen until I was on the way here. What we don't want is investing and doing things in your business out of desperation and out of just fear of missing out, and because we think that somebody else has got the answer for us, because we're buying into an illusion of certainty that does not exist. So if that feels like music to your ears, fantastic. If that feels like suddenly I've burst a bubble, well, good. Because the biggest problem is that we often think that everybody knows better than us. Now, that doesn't mean we haven't got skills to learn and we haven't got understanding to have, but there is a certainty that about listening to your own and trusting your own wisdom that is really vital. The most important thing is, I think it's to walk the path with other people, or to have people that are like-minded, or to have objectivity when you actually can't see the wood to the trees is really vital. So we have to pause and reflect for a moment so that you can discern what your lane actually looks like. When you are in flow, and where your energy trade-offs are, and handle those mental imaginings that have you wondering if you are really cut out for this. The fastest way to slow down progress is to take shortcuts. You cannot outrun your skill level and your personal grounded confidence in what you have to offer. So when we haven't got that clear, we cannot just go for a bunch of strategy and expect it to work. It's not going to give you, it's going to give you results, it's going to give you feedback, but it will not give you as much progress as you want. I can say that with personal certainty because I've done it. It's not easy to stay the course, so please don't let anyone make you promises that are simply trying to manipulate you. There will be times when you get caught up in your thinking and believe every crazy thought that says you are failing. Maybe you are failing. After all, this is how we learn. Failure is not an issue. Let's not make, whether we earn money or don't earn money, or whether we try something or don't, let's not make it personal or make it an issue. If we are failing, it's absolutely vital. It's probably the only time that we sit back and reflect on what actually we need to be doing differently. The key thing here is that you are failing forward, and that is what counts. So it's time to find your lane. We're going to do it together, and we're going to, maybe you can revisit this exercise as many times as you want to see yourself grow. So let's have a little look. Okay, so this is what I'm going to ask you to do right now. Are you focusing on your path or on someone else's? So this is the question I want you to just have a think about, maybe write some notes down. And so have a little look over your past 12 months. What have you tried that you are not getting results with? What have you bought that you got stuck halfway through with? Where have you been a follower and not a leader? Either in somebody else's advice, their prices, their ideas. Let's just sit down there and just go, let's just burst this illusion of certainty a minute and chip away and actually go without any self-judgment. I really thought that if I do it the way that they're doing it, because it was successful for them, that it would be successful for me. Or what have you been looking at, whether it's webinars, strategy, tactics, etc. What have you been trying or have been looking at that you think you might want to go towards, or you think because they're a success with it that you're going to be a success with it? Just have a little think right now as to what that is. I did lots of that, but not anymore, yeah. So just maybe have a little think, just write. It's good sometimes like to write it down. I'll kind of give you an example. There were some things that I wanted to learn this year about doing challenges and boot camps. Now we were really successful at them. And because I've been involved in sales for a long time, then we had a lot of sales in certain things that we were doing. And what was really, really interesting, do you want me to kind of uncover the truth here? Shall I uncover the truth behind it? Because nobody tells you the truth. Is that all of the higher client base that we brought on, I was incredibly discerning with, and I was really clear. I had lots of conversations with people. We brought on, I can't even tell you how wonderful some of the higher paying clients that we brought on actually were. And when we brought the lower paying clients on, how completely opposite our experience was that it was. It was like easy come, easy go. It was really different. And just because you can bring people in doesn't mean you should. So when we sat down, it's like we looked at all of the things that had happened, all of the people that brought on, the people that didn't work, the things that did work, etc. And it was really interesting. We came back, we've done a whole spiral in a kind of year of even running the Visible Club. And way before that, when I had the purpose for it and the mission and the lane for it, it was so true. It just literally, I'd come all the way through and saw what did and didn't work, and come to this point where I went, my original purpose for this was absolutely true, that we were here to support people on their path, not give them the path. Does that make sense? Like, support them on their path, not give them the path. Bring the skills, the skills that we all need to need, but when people kind of come in and they're like, wait, it's like going on the travelator at the airport, because when you go on the travelator, you're expecting that thing to take you faster to where you want to go. But business is not a travelator. Your pathways, why I've got that Carl Jung quote, if you can see clearly in front of you, if you can see the path in front of you, if it feels clear, it's not your path. It's not yours. You're following somebody else's. So just look, where have you been a follower? Just kind of look, if you're going into 2022, because what tends to happen is we can't get enough of what we don't really need. There's a quote in that, and I heard it a couple of years ago, and it says, you can't get enough of what you don't really need. Let's have a look of what don't you need in life. I don't need more sugar in my life, right? I don't need more sugar in my life. What do you think I'm most drawn to? Sugar. You got it, right? Same with the smoker. What doesn't a heroin addict actually need more of in their life? Heroin. What are they drawn to? Heroin. What are self-employed people that haven't yet found their lane or their full value in themselves or the next iteration of it? What is it that they are most drawn to because the path is unclear? Certainty. Anybody that's promising you certainty, where's my sweetie wrapper? You'll wake up under 1 million of them. I bought 2 quite expensive courses, which led to nowhere. So I go back to the roots and do some market research this week and start all over. And of course, I did a lot of webinars from marketing gurus. Thank you for saying that, Iris. And it's not that, you know what, I've invested in myself heavily over years and years and years. I can share some experiences of those. We are not here to bash courses, right? Because I actually think that certain things, they teach you, like I had a really expensive coaching one year, and I realized within the first 2 months that I'd got everything I needed from it, and I still had masses of months left and masses to pay from it, and it wasn't fit for purpose, and it virtually broke me emotionally and financially in that thing a couple of years ago. But and it took me a little while to get over it, because I was blaming it, and then I was blaming me, and all of this kind of stuff that we go on and do. It makes you realize what is good. Yeah, it made, you know, I had realized that I had tried to buy a certain result that I hadn't even realized I was doing at the time. I thought, well, this person is really good at doing this thing, and if I buy into their way of doing it, then I'll have those results. And that couldn't be further of the truth, because I think what wants to come through you in your life and through your work in the world, you might borrow good strategy, you might use certain software that other people use, but it will always be a unique iteration of you, your experiences, and your life in the world. It might even look as if it's in the same industry as other people, but it can never be. It can never be what somebody else is doing, because you won't have grounded certainty in doing it. So we're not bashing courses, but we want to be discerning, and we want to be discerning as to what is the next, exactly the thing. What if we've got too much of our plate on? Where do we keep kind of going for the same thing, imagining it's going to give us certainty? What really are we missing? Okay, and what needs to happen? So let's go into the next little bit. So flow, my favorite quote, Howard Thurman. What makes you come alive? Think about what you have done. Think about all of the experiences and the way that you work, and the people that you've worked with in the past. Even if you haven't actually started your business yet, a version of your skill and experience is very much got to come into your business. It's where you're going to have most credibility in the marketplace. But ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And I'm going to marry that up with what the marketplace needs in a minute, but we have to start with you. We have to start with what makes you come alive. What have you done? What have you done? Even in those programs and courses, what was it about the course that lit you up? What was it about the program or anything that they was promising? What about what you've done? And the people, the types of people that you work with, what makes you come alive? Yeah, I understood afterwards in what direction I have to go, which isn't my cup of tea. That's a really easy way to do it. Like, what's not your cup of tea? What is not your cup of tea? And also sometimes we have to look at what isn't our cup of tea in order to find out what is, because it's like asking somebody, you know, what would you love to do? What do you want? And sometimes we're like, oh, I don't know what I want. But sometimes we can start down the road and then we go, oh, I don't want that anymore. I don't want that. But what makes you come alive? I think that's really key, because this is the bit where I look at your zone of genius. I'll just show you this. I use this a lot now, a piece of paper. And there's part of this from the big leap, as it were, or I've got this in the right way, but we often get stuck if we're not, there's a zone of incompetence. We tend to buy courses sometimes, hard to learn, hard to do. Oh, scale with webinars or whatever. We may or may not need that right now, but we can tend to find this bit where we're really incompetent and we try really hard to do that, okay? And then what we do, easy to learn, hard to do. The things that are easy to learn, hard to do are, it's not difficult to go and add value, go and have a, you know, post, find somebody who's asked a question in a Facebook group that you know that you can add value. It's not hard to go and add some value. Hard to do because we don't know where it's leading. It's like digging 12 feet down and going, is that going to lead to pay dirt or not? So our energy becomes this kind of, I don't know whether I want to do this in case I get this back from it, etc. Things that are kind of easy to learn, hard to do. What is easy to learn? What's hard to do in your business? What do you not want to do? What are you resistant to doing? Or what do you know that needs to be done in your business that you don't want to do? Excellent bit. This is the bit that you probably want to start down your lane. It's where you've got your most strong skills in. It was probably hard to learn at the beginning, but it's now easy for you to do. It's where you have your zone of excellence. It's where you've got skill, understanding, and experience in the marketplace. Because when you're going down your lane, people want to know. There's three things that people actually want to know from each of us. They want to know, do we have credibility? Can you show me, first of all, that you are relevant to me? In other words, that you understand the problem that I'm facing. Do you really understand me? Do you really understand the problem that I'm facing? Because I'm looking around everywhere and I've got so much information to choose from. How are you going to understand the problem that I'm facing? Then they want to know, are you the real deal? So this is why I show up on things like this, because we have to be able to go, is this person truthful, or are they just putting on an act? Are they just saying things to make me buy? Are these people the real deal? Have they been through some stuff? Have they come out the other end of a journey? Do they know what the journey is like? And the actual evidence now is that most people are wanting to buy from people that have actually walked the same path that they've walked. Because there's many people at the minute that have taken on courses that are going out to try and teach people about things that they really haven't walked through themselves for any length of time. And then the bit that I want you to focus on, the bit that makes you come alive, is going to be this bit here. So easy to do that you can't remember learning how to do it. And that's why I told you a little bit about my background. Like, I've never not been in front of audiences. It's my most fun thing to do, just to show up and be in front of people. It's the easiest thing for me to do. I feel like I feel sometimes like I should try harder. Like if you've worked with people, if you've done things in your work or business or in your career life before, what were the things that you just thought either you just do because whether you got paid for them or not, you just love doing them and you realize people need it? Or which are the bits that you find that you do and you go, how come everybody doesn't know this? Surely I can't charge for that. You know, I've got to work harder for the value here. Like, surely I can't charge for that. You know what, just listening to people deeply and showing them clarity. Really, I can't just be doing that. Or, you know, God, it's so easy to just, you know, put that website together or put that funnel together, or, you know, teach people how to handle it, you know, how to handle a dog or whatever it is, you know, if you like, just something so easy. It's like you can't understand. It's like it's common sense to you. It's so common sense that you don't see it as an innate gift. And just the way that you are with people is where your gifting lies. I love empowering people. It became clear in all of the years that I was teaching and etc. that one of the biggest things that made me personally come alive, the only thing that made me personally come alive really, was to see somebody find their own voice, quote unquote, and be doing what made them come alive. Because when they were really operating in their full ability, they were brilliant. Everybody was brilliant. And there was a real uniqueness and a loveliness about what they were doing. And so what made me come alive was not teaching people how to belt harder and higher, if that wasn't the kind of music that they needed to do, or speaking one way or another, or hand gestures and where to put your safety pin or your pin on your presentation. None of that made me come alive. What made me come alive was somebody feeling very confident, empowered in what they had to say and doing it. So it's like, what you'll find it over a period of time, what makes you come alive? Yes, exactly. We're buying into results, but we are not necessarily ready to do what they did to get there. Not because we don't want to, but because their way is not aligned with our values or with our product service. That's absolutely true. So I think you said a couple of things here, Maggie, that's very important. Sometimes people are buying into results and they don't want to do the work. They don't realise how much dirt they've got to dig down to actually find their own personal pay dirt. And if the purpose isn't strong enough, you won't keep digging. When you think that there's no vein of gold in there to do it. Some people don't even see that they're actually got a vein of gold personally, and they want to keep going around this personal development thing to feel better about themselves rather than get into action. I'm all into action because I think that's where you actually see what's going on. Sometimes we are thinking, you're absolutely right, that you get down of it and you realize that your product and service, or the way that thing, you might just have to rejig the focus of it until it is aligned. But it's like, I look and go, it's what are your clients? What are the people? What is your purpose and your clients? What do they really need from you? And the only way to do that is to have conversations with them, get up in front and personal. And it's harder with the internet because everything is teaching you how to put something in place to take you away from people. And actually we need to be closer to people, closer and closer. Did so many coaching, did so many coaches for colleagues and was just in the flow always. Afterwards, they always told me that they thought they would pay for that kind of session. I was blown away. There we go. But that's a really great way of doing it because you start to see the value. Now, the most important thing is you have to take that value, package it, and then do those. The harder bit is learning how to communicate the value of it and working it out. So just keep writing that down. We'll go on to the next thing, and then we'll kind of feedback and see where you are at the end of it. Okay, let's just find that next one. Finishing things. Somebody said that was a good little kind of segue, Maggie. You didn't even realise you were into that one, didn't you? You didn't even realise you were so in the flow. What strategies are you stuck on? Right. I've got a couple quote here. If you ask, I love this Henry Ford quote. If you ask people, they'll just tell you they want faster horses. What are you trying? What are you not finishing right now? What strategy did you think was going to be the one to work that you've stopped in the middle of, that you just get stuck on, or you didn't finish it? Because when you really look at it, your intuition is probably pretty clear. If you ask people, they'll just want faster horses. And what he's really saying is there's a space for you bringing a unique kind of, I tried to look you up on Facebook and can't find your page. Oh, I'll sort that out.
That was to Iris, sorry.
Oh, that was Irish. I was going to go, I've just seen that. Yeah, it kind of just got me halfway through. I was thinking, don't get what's going on in the chat. So finishing things. I think there's two reasons why we don't finish things. And I think it's really important to acknowledge both. One, well, three maybe. One, we didn't finish it because we didn't know how to. In other words, we got stuck on, we went through a process. It could be a course, it could be an idea. We got somewhere into it and we just went, actually, I've got a skill here. I don't know how to do. Like, what's missing in the skill set for you? You know, that's part of what is going to have to be in your lane. Is like, where did you get to that you just thought, I'm stuck here. I haven't got past this bit. And it's very easy to keep going back around the things that you find more comfortable to do, rather than actually to just go, there's a skill here that I don't know what to do next. I'm stuck on something. The strategy seems good, but I'm stuck somewhere. The second reason why we don't finish things is that, a bit like the hitting pay dirt, there's areas of our own self-belief, or there's areas of kind of like we keep digging and we're not finding anything, or we're not finding the way, and it just feels really hard graft sometimes. And actually, you know, there's that place where we just stop finishing things because we don't have enough support around us and enough purpose around us to actually keep us going a little bit further. And the third thing that we don't finish things is that, as you said, is actually we realise that we've gone down a path that actually isn't lined up to us or the type of clients or customers. And actually that's okay, because sometimes it's easier to steer a car when it's moving than when it's not doing anything at all. So I'll give you an example of just a personal example of purpose and the importance of having support, and what that support, why I think it's so vital. Back in our own family, behind the scenes, shall we say, behind the scenes, peel the curtain back. I've been on my husband's had cancer since 2012, and we're on cancer number 4 right now. And we found at the beginning of lockdown that my husband had, the cancer had popped up in both lungs this time round. And we're in lockdown. So he started on the treatment. And just when you realise that, you know, you kind of set your pathway, don't you? Like we all look at the start of 2000, you know, whichever year it is you've got, you start your pathway, and you've got no imagine what's going to come up in front of your pathway, how flexible you need to be, etc. What's going on. And about halfway through, maybe about sort of April, you know, April, May time, I reached out to who's now my business partner, Anchor, and said, I need a new platform for the Visible Club. It feels like we need to go in that direction. And you're a techie person, really trust you, let me have a conversation. So we started down this road of putting this new platform together, which we've got now for people in the Visible Club. And about halfway through the process with Anchor, I was like, I just knew that I needed a business partner. I knew that I needed a support. It's like my wisdom went, it's time to get a business partner. Now it went completely against the grain of me, because I'd had a business partner in the past and it was an absolute nightmare. And it was ages to get, like I had to get out of it, and I lost money. So sometimes you are led back into the very place of your pain to go and put that into place, put that right. But this time we took our time, and I knew it was Anne, she knew it was her. We started down this process. And this is why your pathway is so unique and so individual, and so it's so important to feel your way along the path of the unknown. I had no idea that 2 months later, after joining with Anchor, that my husband would have been given immunotherapy treatment for cancer, and it completely go wrong. So wrong that within 3 weeks, they took him into hospital. They called me up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and they went, bring your daughter and come and say goodbye, because your husband has less than 48 hours to live. That was a bit of a traumatic. Nobody could have planned for that. But I suddenly realised that that support that I had got on the other end to keep the business going, to move things forward, while we dealt with that, he's here, came out, bit of a miracle, fighter as it were. But even in that, like X amount more hospital visits during the year, while we still, without that support behind you, it's too easy to get off your path and lose your way with what's going on and not finish things that even are right for you. So I hope you don't have dramatic things going on in your personal background than we've had, but I want to iterate that the reason that we don't finish things is sometimes it's strategy and skill. Sometimes it's that we actually really need support. And the third thing is sometimes we actually need to trust our own self and work out what's in alignment to us. So you got Maggie here, is I used to not finish things like studies, but I realized it was a combination of that. I didn't do something that I was completely in alignment with. Third of it's our personality, such as idea generator, always struggle to take things through to the end. So I started working on finishing things when I know they're worth finishing, but also learn to see what's worth dropping and not spending time on it. Sometimes our priorities in life do change because of our circumstances. Yeah, and I think it's more of a delay, not even like a drop off, as it were, you know. So, I mean, I was just said to people here, I'm always very open with people, because you know, my personal common enemy is this idea that you can suddenly, as if there's just a really easy step-by-step approach, 7 steps to business success kind of thing. Because I just think, otherwise you sit there and you go, how come my life doesn't match up to this? Like, still here, still paying the bills, still, you know, doing good work in the world, etc. And I think we have to redefine what success and what it really actually is to be in business, and to actually do that as a service-based solopreneur. So we've got our last one to go here. Let me share this. Here's our last one. Feelings, your feelings. There was no way that I would have been able to keep going if I knew that I wasn't doing what was really in my lane. What ideas have you ignored? Theologian Frederick, and this is where it matches to the marketplace, because it's not just follow your bliss or build it and they will come. It's not just follow everybody else's proven success and you'll have what you have, my 7-figure business. Those are both the extremes of what isn't working. So theologian Friedrich Buechner defines vocation as the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Your deep gladness is the call of one's true, enduring and authentic self, the pursuit that engender not necessarily always happiness, but profound joy. I was not happy in the summer trying to keep everything going, but I did have a joy. I knew I was on the right lane, knew I was on the right path, saw how that was unfolding, you know, despite what was going on. To hit pay dirt, you were going to go through some feelings. You're going to go through, if you're going through 12 foot of your own earth to find your own pay dirt, you're going to go through some feelings. Some you're going to think you've hit it and then you realize you haven't. Some you're going to just go, what, more mud? I've got to keep going. I've got to keep going. I've got to keep going. It's absolutely vital that you take notice of the ideas and the things that you might have shoved off the table because you thought that other people said you shouldn't do it. Could be somebody like, don't do it like this. The webinar is, you know, the webinar says do it like this, not do it like that. Somebody else says, you know, don't do it, you know, oh, you won't be able to do that. You have to be able to get control of your feelings and not pay attention to all of the feelings that other people kind of drag up in you, the triggers, the etc. You've got to be able to both acknowledge the feelings of the things, those intuition, those nudges that you've ignored to be on your lane, but at the same time, ignore the feelings that just kind of tell you that you're not going to make it, you're a failure, it's not going to work. Because the truth of the matter is, if you go to the hairdressers and somebody's about halfway through having their hair done and the cut is, you know, they've got foils in and the cut's here, if we looked at the hairdresser and went, oh, for God's sake, stop, it looks terrible, we'd stop at the wrong part in the process. And in fact, to some degree, your whole life is the message. Your whole life is this. It's like you have to kind of go, where am I in the process here? And that's the most important part, is like knowing where you are here. Like, you are here and you're trying to get to there. You are here. What's next? What's next? What's next? Okay. Oh, got down here. Jump up, no problem. Not next week. We're going to start before Christmas and then we're starting after Christmas, but I will be messaging everybody just to kind of show you where we are on the process of this. Is just get some feedback. We're going to send you out the recording of this, and then and we will be starting back the roundtables just after Christmas, as it will. So yeah. So, oh, you've got your Facebook Live. How exciting. Is there anything, while I start with this, is there anything, Julie, you want to kind of say before you jump off, or just pop in the chat, or anything about what you're seeing in this for yourself?
Yeah, no, I think at the moment my head is too full. I think it would be fair to say, with kind of, I guess nothing's coming up obviously for me, and I know enough about myself to know that when I'm feeling like that and nothing's obvious, that it's time to kind of step back and
let it settle.
Yeah, let it settle and then kind of come back to it. So I think, yeah, right here, right now, I'm just feeling like Oof.
Well, there's quite a lot of questions there. There's a lot of deep questions there. There's a lot of questions there, and they're not meant to necessarily help you answer them straight away, but they make you prick between the surface rather than just looking at the obvious, looking at the obvious, looking at the obvious. It's that stop. It's take stock. It's a great place to stop and take stock, because otherwise what we do is we go.
Yeah. So that's my
Perfect. And you've got your Facebook Live on your mind right now, which is perfect. Go and do your Facebook Live.
Thank you very much. See you later. Bye, everyone. Bye.
So talk to me, people. What are you hearing for yourself in any of those questions?
Well, I guess I'm gonna start.
Go for it.
For me, it's always like, because you're talking about things that are theoretically obvious, but sometimes getting back to it, and when you say it loud, I have like a new perspective on it, and the certain realizations that I went through, etc., comes back to me, and it's kind of like reassuring in a way, and giving the confidence as well, and also seeing that I'm not the only one as well. So I think it's all, I don't know, it makes me think, and I think that is really needed in order to go forward as well. So I don't know, I just like to that sort of thought-provoking conversations, and also that the fact that we can also interact as well. I think it's good, and hearing other people's stories.
Right, I think it's so important. This is not webinar style here. I know I've done like a lot of kind of talk in terms of asking the questions and stuff and giving you that space. But again, even like you, it's like you can't you have to kind of like, if we're looking just for more certainty to start with, we have to come to a place of, I think we only have to come to a place of certainty which goes, I feel this is the next move for me. I feel this is the way forward. I don't know what's going to come on the path. I don't know what's going on the way, but that's the way I've got to go. That's how I think you know it's your path. You won't have all the certainty, but you'll want it. Is it Ariel or Oriel? Which is the way that you pronounce it?
It's Ariel.
Ariel, beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
Ariel, is there anything that you've heard in this? So to tell us a little bit about you and your business and what you're doing in the world.
Yes, it's wonderful to be part of this group this morning. Thank you. My work is, I'm about to publish a book called 5D, Here Now, Ordinary Descriptions of an Extraordinary Shift. I'm on a spiritual path. I've always been on a spiritual path, and we have this quantum leap in consciousness now, and I've been tracking it since the 60s, and even people who are close to me don't know that much about it. There's a lot of information of people who are deep into it, but there's not a lot of information for people who don't know about it. And I feel like I've been commissioned by Spirit to write this book. My path is very certain. I just need to find how to connect with other people who can benefit from what I do.
Right.
And I have definite certainty on my path.
But you have certainty on your path. That's what I understand now. You have certainty on your path. A lot of this for you now is, how do you take this to market? How do you connect with people? Exactly. And how do you explain this to people in a way that's going to be practical and easy for them to understand?
Exactly. And what services do I feel comfortable with in providing that there's some kind of monetary exchange? So. Right. So that's what I'm doing. And from this morning, the question, what makes me come alive, really helps bring focus to my work. So thank you. That's
helpful, is it? That's awesome. Well, I'm going to put this in here. I always offer at the end of these an opportunity to speak with me personally. Maggie has already, and I'm pretty direct, aren't I? I'm pretty straight. I can already clear off the path what people shouldn't be up to and what they should be up to, and which is kind of take it off the path, what doesn't need to be there. Where is your main focus right now, and what are you going to be best served moving forward. So I've put a link in the chat there. Do feel free to book a call with me. I'm still working all the way up to next week. So you can book a call and it's in there. You can just, and there's also the Facebook group. These videos are free to look at in the Facebook group. So if you're not in the Voice and Visibility group, you'll get them as an email anyway, but you can come and join that. So there's some opportunities to kind of take it a little bit further in the conversation where I can be a little bit more personal. If you want me to kind of give you a little bit more personal strategy, as it were, with that, then just book in and speak to me. That's absolutely fine. And we've got Iris in the background, as it were, in black at the moment with a lovely big eye. But if you want to, it's fine not to turn your video on, but if you want to either speak, Iris, or if you want to put something in the chat about anything that's actually been helpful for you here, or it's got you thinking, highly recommend it, Iris. All right, there we go. What have you heard from this today that's been helpful for you to get you thinking, or to stop you doing something that might actually take you down the wrong track?
So it's just exactly the point I'm in now. So I want to start my online business in 2022,
right?
And I'm not quite sure about my audience right now, because I thought at first, because it's a very unique niche about going with people who are disfigured somehow, because I'm quite authentic, everybody can see that, and how to gain confidence in that. On the other hand, I'm all about confidence and self-esteem, and not reduced to people who've got problems with the way they look. So I'm a little bit in between right now and still trying to figure it out. But I became very clear in the last weeks about how I want to go. I want to go with Facebook and with YouTube and no more. No matter how popular Instagram might be at the moment, I don't have any connections to that. And just try to get my audience somehow.
Okay, I love that. So I'll just dive into that one as a generalized thing to say as where to go next, because I think it's valuable for all of the questions in a way to lead them through. Here is number one. I think it's absolutely vital to certainly choose a platform in terms of social media, etc., not trying to be everywhere all at once, as it were, because I think that's just a recipe for just tying yourself up in knots and trying to learn a whole bunch of stuff that actually, you can't keep going. The biggest mistake that I hear, now I'm not going to say this, do we need to have content on social media? Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. But there is a way to use social media when you're starting out that has a faster path to your potential clients and to the ability to actually find out what is actually going to be the thing that sells the thing to them, much easier than just posting content. Okay. And I see people imagine at the minute, personally, I think marketers and marketing and courses and digital stuff has hijacked some basic business kind of building stuff. And they've hijacked it by saying, you need to have a content plan, you need to have strategy, you need to be posting here, you need to do hashtags, you need to do this, 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 okay? And I go, that's like standing on a motorway and shouting and waving and wondering why the cars are not stopping. Because the easiest thing to do at the minute is that, isn't it? We've become a 3-second generation where that is the easiest thing to do. And people are worrying what to post. I think this is why we have to do less better. That's why it's important to know your lane, know your message, and then start to have conversations in a way that are actually going to find your market and what they truly want to talk about. Because in a way, and I'll be upfront here, it's like with me doing the visible roundtables, I get to hear from people that you would miss this if I put a post. Yeah, you'd miss this. You wouldn't see this. It's in a nanosecond. The algorithm, I don't even have control over the algorithm whether you'd see this or not. Now, call me a control freak. Maybe I'm all right with that for a minute. But what I look about is I do not want my business to be controlled by something that I cannot have any say in. Okay, now is this a vehicle to help me in business? You bet you, right? But if all I did was just post, if I agonized for days over a content plan and what to post, if I agonized to post, right? Now, consistent stuff over a period of time, that algorithm is going, this person's putting out stuff, okay? Putting out 1 minute this and 1 minute that and 1 minute something else and 1 minute something else and 1 minute something else is going to confuse people, and a confused mind never buys. Let's just say that. If you never take anything else away, a confused mind never buys. So what tends to happen is we are the ones that get bored with the message that we're saying before the market has actually worked out that it wants us. So we've got to get really clear on our lane. We've got to get really clear on what it is that's about our message that the people that are paying attention to us are actually interested in. Now, I will say to you, out of everything that I do in business and stuff, and I've got some skills on my plate, as well as I think you all have, I can fix any voice. I could close my eyes and physically fix a voice, okay? I can put talks together. I can write scripts. I can get people on big stages. I can, tell people why one video is going to work and why one video isn't going to work. I can teach people the sales process. I can walk them through how to have a sales conversation with people. I can teach them how to actually sell and how to put their offer together when they're on that sales conversation with somebody. I can teach people how to actually, use their own personal presence and how to really kind of walk in that kind of confident delivery about how they're doing it. I can get that whole, I can write their message for them. I can put a whole signature system and a process together for people. I do it right now with some people behind the scenes. Like, there is so many things that I can do for a person, okay? And when you start a process, but do you know what the biggest thing in the marketplace that I keep being asked at the biggest common denominator that I end up being asked about all of the time, and that I end up talking about all of the time? Making more impact with your message, actually having a message. People are confused about what they should be, what their message, what they're about. They're confused about their lane, and therefore they cannot communicate the message that they can't articulate. And that hasn't changed since 2012. It's just I'm doing it in a different format. So it's like, so I have seen through my conversations in the round table, through my conversations with people in sales conversations, through my client base over the years, there is a common denominator that if I talk about that common denominator in the market, it becomes the attraction strategy that people start to be drawn to me. Now, if I kind of come off that lane and I want to start talking about the fact that, let's just say I talk about some of the mindset coaching that I end up doing, or just start talking about, it's going to knock it. It's like, I could talk about it, it's a truth, but it's not so consistent in the marketplace that I get known for the thing. And your job is to get known for the thing. Your job, your only job, is to get known. Now, because the market, and to find out what your people, or what the types of people that are going to be your people actually want to hear from you. And the easiest way for that is to start speaking about it, start talking about it, start finding the one or two things that people resonate with, getting out and doing physical speaking. It's one of your fastest paths to clients to start with. Content is hidden in it, if that makes sense, but it actually has to start from you speaking your truth, because there's going to be a nugget. You're going to come alive when you say certain things that are really your deep embodied truth. Now, when we find out, when we've got the understanding of how to meet the marketplace, like the marketplace deepest need, that was that last quote, wasn't it? Your deep gladness meeting the world's deepest hunger. Well, the deepest hunger that I have found with my marketplace is valuing themselves, valuing their time, valuing their talents, and then learning how to turn that into the message that's going to make them stand out, that they can stand behind. That makes sense. It's like they can stand behind it. No different in a way, just a different iteration of having a singer and helping them to sing their song. And it's easy. It's like when I go, that's so easy for me to do. And it's my deep gladness. And the more I'm speaking to people, the more it comes about message. So I stop and I go, okay, that's my message in the marketplace. That's my content. That's my stuff. It's around value. It's around how to actually even pick your lane. Well, how do you pick your lane? Part of even what I'm doing is talking about this. It's like you start to go, well, what makes me come alive? What do I value? Where are my skills? Where are my talents? Because what's going to give you credibility to start off with is where you've got your greatest skill has to be put into a format that you can speak about confidently enough for people to understand that you can create that result because you've got skill and experience in it. That's where we all start. We have to start there. And so we have to go, well, how do you know what you know? How do we put that in a form and how do we communicate that? So that is where it starts. And that's why I say, take it that little bit deeper, book a call with me. Let's have a look at your unique situation. And then we can actually go, this is where you need to put your focus, and you can take everything else off your plate. Do not pass go, do not collect $200 until you have done that thing. Does that make sense? Like, it's no good trying to go around the board, putting your little houses on all your little park lanes or whatever it is that you've got in your Monopoly board until, we've got to turn over the next card and do the next thing. We've got to turn over the next card and do the next thing. And fundamentally, in an increasingly busy marketplace, what is going to happen is that you have to get more and more defined about who you are, what you're standing for, and you start to walk down that path until you start hitting pay dirt. And that's going to mean, that does not mean jumping from one thing to the next. It does not mean buying this and that and the other and this and that and the other. It means sticking to a lane and turning over the card and turning over the card and taking the next action and taking the next action until you get there. Now, I can help with that. The idea of me doing these is to help you actually see the truth of that to start with, so that you can kind of go, if all you're doing is trying to take information away from this so you can go and just kind of implement it all on your own, that won't work. Okay, you'll take a truth away from this. If you take one embodied truth away from this, then we're getting somewhere. Okay, and it'll be that you need some skill, or you need some support, or you do need to look at where your personal strategy is. On the back of that, everything that I do is a bit like, imagine like a lighthouse steering a ship off the rocks and going, you've got your compass, you do actually know how to drive this ship, you've got yourself to this point, but at the same time, as you go forward, you're going to hit some rocks and you can't always see them. So do book a call, do go in there, and then I can show you where your personal strategy is to take it further if you want to. So I'm just going to kind of end this by going, Iris, is there anything that you want to add or take away from this, or Maggie the same? Good to go. Awesome. The replay will be up in the Facebook group, so do join that, and you'll also receive it on your email. I'm going to wish you a very, very, stop that there.